War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn Family spectrum. My name is Kyle. I'm the editor-in-chief, or owner, whatever, the editor of the E2C Network, which is a family of podcasts that cover Auburn topics. Obviously, always heavy on the sports as we are here on these live streams. But if it's orange and blue, we'll talk about it here on this live stream. Speaking of live, we are broadcasting currently right here in front of me on YouTube. So hello to all the YouTube folks out there. We're also having a social media broadcast go on at the same time. See a couple people on Twitter joining us today. So thank you all so much for being here, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We do appreciate you spending a few minutes of your time with us today. On this live stream, we always come prepared with a topic to talk about. But really, this live stream is about connecting with you, the Auburn family, so we can bounce around to a bunch of different things. But the big news today is that Gus Malzahn, former head coach of the Auburn football team, has a new home down in Central Florida, in Orlando, Florida, to be most specific there. Some ironic nature to that, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, his future, and this is kind of the closing of a chapter for Auburn officially now with Coach Malzahn moving on to something else. So we can talk about that and many other things today. So I hope that you're prepared to do that. A couple things that you can do for me as you're coming in. If you enjoy this stream and this content we put out for you, I feel make sure you smash that like button. It does help push it out to other Auburn fans that want to be part of the conversation. And that's the big thing that you can do for us as well. Right now, before I go through our pre-show announcements, the things that we always do here, if you'll do me a huge favor and let me know that you're here, War Eagle, and also post where you're watching from. What city, what state, international. We get people international all the time watching this show. So post it right now in the comment section where you're watching from so we can see how vast and how wide the Auburn family is. So pre-game or pre-show announcements here. They can see it on YouTube. Unfortunately, Twitter folks, you won't be able to see this, but you can just listen along. I posted all these links in the top or close to the top because we had a lot of people showing up early to the chat. We had a lot of links up there that you can help support our content here by, obviously we talked about liking the video here or the stream if you're on social media, and also you can join the E2C Network Booster Club and join for as little as $1 a month and help support the content that we do here. Michael Floyd is watching on Twitter. He is one of our E2C Network Booster Club members. Thank you so much for that. John Stokes as well. He's popped in, so thank you guys so much. And there's PayPal and TeePublic store where you can get our logo and some other Auburn-related gear, not specific Auburn gear, but related gear there as well if you want to do that and help support what we do here. I think I've said hello to a couple of people already. Let's see. Robert, Linda is here. Linda's a E2C Network Booster Club member as well. Ramon, stereotypical Auburn fan. Neil White, Jared Clay, Joe's a Booster Club member as well. Kenneth, true GA champion. Man, we got a humongous crowd here already on YouTube. So let's get started. I know that y'all are ready to talk about it. So let me ask this question to start off, and then I'm going to go back through some of y'all's comments and questions that you've already dropped in here, and we'll try to play catch up because this is a big topic today. Yes or no, was it a good decision for Coach Malzahn to go back to coaching so quickly? Leave the UCF part of it out of it. I'm interested if we think Coach Malzahn should have gone back to coaching so quickly, or should he have done what's happened a lot is take the analyst route, take the commentator route, or just take a year off completely. What do you think? Post your response right now in the chat window. Let's go back up here and see what's going on in the chat windows here. I may not be able to hit all of these, but I'll do my best for this. It seems like everybody else is pretty happy for him, wishing him a lot of luck there to be there as part of that. It's going to be funny because Gus is going to take UCF in the first group of 5 team to make the playoffs. You know, it would be hilarious, wouldn't it? It would actually be quite hilarious. I don't want that to happen, obviously. You know, I'm a huge Gus Malzahn fan. I want him to have success, but I want him to have just a little less success than Auburn does. So I'm not necessarily. I'm rooting for Gus Malzahn, the man, but I'm not rooting for Coach Gus Malzahn, the coach, especially when it comes to one-upping us at Auburn. Is coming out of this as well. Is will Coach Malzahn, what kind of success is he going to have there? Not just early or later down the road, but what kind of consistent success he's going to have. It's definitely probably, I think we've got some UCF fans joining in here too, so this will be interesting on Twitter. It's I would say it's a little bit easier to win in, what are they, the American Conference? I forget, they've changed so many times. It's a little bit easier for them to get a lot of wins than it is in the SEC, specifically the SEC West. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if it's a good fit. I don't know if you guys think it is either. Neil thinks it's a perfect job for him. You were a stereotypical Auburn fan, was at the Peach Bowl when they beat us. I was there as well. That was a rough day. It was freezing cold. I think it was in the single digits, and I remember standing at the MARTA station because I live north of Atlanta, and there's a MARTA station somewhat nearby to go in so we wouldn't have to deal with traffic and stuff like that. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible, and then to have to go back in that, absolutely awful. All right, we got people calling in from, or listening in from Austin, Wetumpka, Marietta, Panama City, Leeds, Alabama, all kinds of good places all the way coming around. I know we've got some people from Auburn. Michael's over here on YouTube now as well. All right, so it seems like most people are agreeing that this was a great decision for him. Amelia says yes. Yes, coach is coach. Yeah, so we've got some saying I think he should have taken off time. UCF will have more national championship banners hanging soon, potentially. I mean, if they do their route of just claiming them like everybody makes fun of them for, it'll be pretty interesting. We do have some UCF fans here, so the UCF fans need to share with us what they think about this hire, because I'd really be interested to hear what you guys think about that. E-Money, good to see you, man. I hadn't seen you on a live stream in a while. Glad to have you here. He says, Gus has proven when backed against a wall, he can win. This is very true. Very true. It says something about when a person is pressed, what you get out of them is something to behold. And when you push Gus Malzahn, you get some good things out of him. So we'll see what happens there. Wait a minute, hold on. E-Money's in Hawaii. Everybody just look at him right now and be absolutely jealous. Because here in the South, we are getting a winter storm of epic proportions. Probably should have come in 2020 to go with all the craziness that was going on there. And it is cold. It is rainy in some areas. It is snowy and icy. It is awful. Absolutely awful. Pell City, Boaz. Man, we got people from all over today. Jared's got a little bit of a different opinion on Gus. Says he thinks he needs a break. I actually lean in Jared's camp a little bit, to be honest with you. Personally, I don't think I don't know necessarily if now is the time for him to take the head coaching job. I'm not upset for him because he's sitting on a cool $21 million and then going to get coached to get paid some more. But as somebody else said, coaches want to coach. Okay, so Bassdanger asked, what should UCF fans know about Gus? All right, so let me go ahead and do this. I should have done this at the beginning of the stream. We're going to go ahead and get out, for those of you that hate Gus Malzahn, we're going to go and get all the jokes out of the way. I'm going to go and do them right now. Hope UCF enjoys 8-4 seasons. Hope UCF enjoys a high school offense. Hope UCF enjoys never making the playoffs. Hope UCF. So I've said all the jokes. They don't need to be said anymore. People are going to say them now regardless, but they were not even going to address them. We acknowledge there are some jokes that you can make about Coach Malzahn, and we're not even going to deal with those at this point because that's just ridiculous. All right, so what do you need to know about Gus Malzahn? You have got an absolutely character guy. This is the first thing. And I know that's probably not the sexy thing to say. It's not the flashiest thing, most important thing to most people. What you have gotten in this coach is someone, as far as our time with him and up to this point and in the rest of his coaching career, has basically been about as squeaky clean as you can in the modern era. I'm not going to sit here and say that every program doesn't cheat, doesn't do some things color outside the lines, and I'm sure that Coach Malzahn and his staff did that while they were here at Auburn. But they did it in a way that kept their noses clean for the most part, and that is one thing that Auburn fans we disagree on a lot of things about Gus Malzahn and his time here, but that is one thing that you will never be able to take away from him, is that he is a quality human being. He is a guy who really cares about his players, and he can fire them up around him. And I just want to make sure this is clear. by and large, the team was not in favor of this change at Auburn. I know that's a sad revelation for many of the people that did not like Coach Malzahn here at Auburn, but they did not. The players, by and large, were very upset about this. So you've got a coach's player, a quality guy, and he is still an offensive mastermind. I think one of the things that he can do a little better is maybe adjust. And I think he was trying to do some of those things, but had gotten a little bit too far behind in some areas. The offensive line is really what killed him. So if you want to know what you need to know about Gus, quality guy, what he need to focus on with him is making sure he gets the offensive line right, because when he does that, his offenses are unstoppable. Circa 2010, 2013, and really, 14 to some degree, 2017 when it finally got, or was it 18? 18. I can't remember. When Gus's offense get going, they are unstoppable. So I think those are some big things that you can take away from that. Here's the other funny thing, too, that I'm thinking, and I know I'm getting behind in chat and all that stuff, so I'll try to catch back up. It has nothing to do with football. I know, obviously, I've been down to UCF once before. I know it's near Orlando, Disney World and stuff. He's a grandfather now. Those kids are going to be getting of age to go there. This makes perfect sense for the man. Retire to Florida. Not retire, but go to Florida as your last stop, potentially. Spend some time in Orlando. Take your kids to Disney World all the time. How do you get better than that? You're near the beach? That's some good stuff right there. And I frequent Orlando a lot, so hopefully I'll run into Coach Malzahn down there. Claimed national titles. Yes. So just know, UCF fans, we're going to have a little fun with y'all here today about claimed national titles. We're honored personally that you think that beating us gets you a national title. I mean, I would agree with that. Ramon asks, would you say Malzahn is a step up from Hoop? I don't know how you pronounce this. Hopu? Yeah, I would 100%. A guy who's been at the Power 5 level, has had success. Man, that is a huge step. UCF just totally outkicked their coverage in terms of what they could probably get. Personally, it's probably a match made in heaven. One thing you need to know is he likes to chew gum. Absolutely. He is known for doing that. He loves his visors. He loves his vest. That's some other things as well. Okay, so Bassdanger says a lot of people don't think he fits the offensive scheme, but he's a great hire. UCF fans are weird. Our fan base is young and huge. Yes, I've seen that for myself. Y'all are a weird group of people. I spent an entire weekend down there at an Auburn UCF baseball game, and that's an interesting lot down there. It's a beautiful campus. I'm not going to take that away from you guys. I would say this, it sounds like it's a complete restart for UCF as well, as Auburn has had here. Philosophy changes, things like that. When you get rid of your AD and your head coach, go over to UT, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's how that went down. I would treat this as a clean, fresh start for UCF as it has been for Auburn. Hoople, how do you guys say this? Hoople is a terrible play caller and a predictable offense. Huge upgrade. So there will be Auburn fans that hop on here and we'll remind you that probably some of that went on here, but we'll see what happens. Jared asked a great question. Who will be his OC? I don't know that. Would Cody Burns follow him over there after getting hired? Where did he go? I forget. Tennessee? Potentially, he was his co-offensive coordinator. Gus likes to have guys, especially in, I can see this happening year one, under him that are going to be very, shall we say, under his thumb. And not that Cody is under his thumb necessarily, but he's still growing as an offensive coordinator. So I would not be surprised if that happens. Rhett Lashley over at Miami, he wouldn't want to come underneath Gus again. He's kind of rising in the coaching ranks, so that's definitely out. I think Cody is probably a good one to look at there. If not, bringing Chad Morris over. That could happen. It could absolutely happen. Gus has a great taste in cars. Interesting. Gus runs a clean program. He'll do well at UCF with the offenses, but he will have a rough time in the American Conference. I don't think he'll have a rough time. I think any first-year coach, outside of the miraculous things that Auburn does, they tend to have a little bit of struggles out the gate. I go back to this. If Gus can not get in the offensive line situation that he got here at Auburn, he'll be fine. He'll be very successful in the American Conference. So E brings up another great point. And this is why I love having E here. I love all of you guys, but E and I just think this exact same way. Auburn's got a problem. They do. And it is one coach, Gus Malzahn. Auburn has traditionally been a program that has had to reach into the, neighboring states to draw out their talent as competing with Alabama. It's got a little bit tougher, especially right now in state stuff. So we traditionally obviously still draw most of our people out of Alabama, but Georgia and Florida have been strongholds for us, especially the lower, central to lower Florida ranges and in the Orlando and almost into Miami regions. Gus Malzahn has the dirt on Auburn. Gus Malzahn has the relationships built down there in his time and where he'd love to go down there. So Auburn's traditional, now this is a clean start for Auburn as well. Gus Malzahn's connections down there and the relationships that he's built with the coaches and players is going to serve him very well. So the more you talk about this for him and you think about this makes a lot of sense for him. And it's a very dangerous thing for Auburn. Now, on the flip side of this, let me talk about Coach Harsin for a second. One of the things that we've talked a lot about him and things that he's bringing to the table is his Midwest, his West Coast connections that are going to probably pay huge dividends, hopefully, in recruiting. So that can be countered by having someone that's got the dirt on you and someone that has the connections he's built during your time there and can probably utilize those still and keep, at least for the first couple of years, some of those recruits you were seeking away from you, maybe, potentially, I don't know. Because he is a player's coach. That can be counteracted just a little bit there. So I think that's a good thing to think about, Gus utilizing the talent he has there. Maybe the next time we play UCF, we beat them 34-27. I don't want to see Gus. I don't want to see UCF ever again for many reasons. I just don't want to see it. I will look off fondly and appreciate our former head coach having success, but I do not want to play UCF again. I'm done with it. I'm over it. Basketball, they won a series. I've been to a series where they've beat us in basketball. Baseball. They beat us in basketball this year. They beat us in football. I'm done with UCF. Done. Let's see here. Yes, Gus is pretty good at recruiting. This year is a bit of an exception for him. And it is. I mean, when you look at his track record, it is the exception to the rule. And a lot of people want to use this past year as kind of the scar against him, but it's not. So my biggest complaint with Gus was how AU would lose to teams they should have routed. So frustrating. I get the frustration behind it, but you can't make decisions based off of frustrations. Here's the thing. UCF is basically, while they're probably the upper tier at the moment in terms of program highlight, program spotlight is a better word, I guess, in the American Conference, you're probably not expected to do what you can at Auburn. Or what you should be doing at Auburn. So that's going to work in his favor as well. So he probably won't have to deal with that anymore. So the more we talk about this, the more we look at it, it's a smart move for Coach Malzahn. Zane says, this is a Kennesaw fan, UCF has a top 10 O-line and every one of them returned. So it's a great foundation. It might have been honestly one of the bigger things that pulled him to make this decision is knowing that his biggest Achilles heel and what ultimately got him fired at Auburn was the offensive line situation that resulted in his offenses not being what they were expected to be. That could play very well into him having some early success or at least stability at the front. I always say personally here for Coach Harsin at Auburn, I'm predicting an 8-4 regular season. And I'm not ready to say would we get a bowl win or not. I'm saying it's a push at this point. And anytime there's a push, I give it in favor of the other team just to be safe. So I'm saying an 8-5 season right now with a bowl loss. But for Coach Malzahn, an 8-4 season with him would probably be very good for them. Well, not very good, but decent. But he could probably do a lot better than that. Jared thinks he'll do 10-2, 11-1 every year. It's a tough standard to uphold, but you can do it at UCF. Darius wants us to remember that we almost lost to Jacksonville State in 2016. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. We can always look back and say, well, we almost did this. Almost only counts in horseshoes. All that matters is there's a W on that column. Here's something you can never say that you can always say that Alabama can't. We never lost to Louisiana Monroe. And at least we're willing to play the in-state teams. Alabama is so afraid that they might have a scar against them, against an in-state program, that they never would think about playing that. Thomas says, I love Gus as an OC, was never sold him as a head coach. Can't explain it, just never felt right. I don't know why it didn't feel right. I think, nobody was going to feel right in an era where Nick Saban is the head coach over at across the state. That's really what kind of boils down to. Let's see. He did. He says Mike is replying to Michael. He did well at Arkansas State. He'll get better talent at UCF and compete for conference titles. Yeah, I would expect that to happen within the first 2 to 3 years for him. Just knowing his track record, the talent pool he had, the relationships that he has there. If he does have a solid offensive line and the schemes that he likes to run, he'll be in a pretty good situation going forward. Don't have any issues with UCF. I like their mascot. I don't necessarily like their mascot. That's just weird, but let's see here. I'm trying to stay up to date in chat here. It's Heupel, excuse me. That's Zane. Thank you so much for clarifying. Heupel. Yeah, I definitely think upgrading from Josh Heupel to Gus Malzahn is definitely an upgrade there. Northeast Tennessee fan here over there in Martin, Tennessee. I know that would be Knoxville, something like that. ABK81 says this. I think Gus Malzahn's hands were tied at Auburn. That's 100% true. That's actually, I shouldn't say 100%. That's 99.9% true. I can't necessarily prove it, but you can kind of see. It's not a coincidence that Gus Malzahn had to throw $2 million of his own money into the Auburn Football Performance Center because they couldn't get the boosters to do that simply because they didn't like him. And that's a sad world that we live in. It's the reality that you live in. You have to accept it. But Gus from day one here was never fully accepted by the Auburn fan base. I'm going to be careful when I say this because I know I'm going to make some people unhappy. Unfortunately, what happened is we won the national championship. We got an influx of people that became Auburn fans simply because of that. And that's the reality of what it is. And I'm not unhappy about that. I want our Auburn family to continue to grow. But what they expect is that. And so what happened then is that when that doesn't happen, you've got a lot of whining, a lot of complaining, a lot of things like that. And then when you see your rival across the state doing what they're doing, unprecedented, it creates an untenable situation in the eyes of the, boosters and everything like that. I just hope that mentality has changed for Coach Harsin because I want to see him have success here. And I hope that I'm a fan of longevity and I'm a fan of stability for the program. And I want Coach Harsin to have a long, successful career here. We'll take a little quick aside here. Not Gus related, but any update on Big Cat? He's still posting videos of him in Auburn shirts on Instagram. Kind of confusing. Again, Ramon, what I always tell people here, do not read anything unless you see a recruit's sign of a letter of intent or something like that, or say, I am coming to Auburn. And even then, that's kind of iffy. I give you one Reuben Foster. Don't read anything to what you're seeing. These players, a lot of them thrive off of messing with fans and making them think one thing. Now, he could decide to come back, but my understanding is that Big Cat was thinking about going, to another SEC school. Am I wrong? I thought there was an update with him on that. And by the way, I see a lot of you kind of just posting some just unnecessarily rude comments about Gus. We're not going to address those. If you don't have anything to contribute to the conversation without taking a dig at him, we're just not going to address them. So trust me, I see them. We're just not going to address those. We can have constructive criticism conversations like I talked about, the offensive line being his Achilles heel, the thing that ultimately got him fired and the thing that he kind of didn't get fixed, that kind of situation. And, there were some frustrating things about not beating some teams that, beating teams that you should have, and then not being able to consistently beat our rivals, especially away. We can talk about those all we want, but if you're going to take digs at the guy, we're not going to address you. Let's see here. Michael says Auburn has the capabilities to recruit big-time players. It's having to deal with how much Bama has the South on lockdown, and we need to look out west more. And I agree with Michael's take here completely. One of the things that I'm so excited about Coach Harsin is those ties out there. And what I've said for the early success, I like what Coach Harsin has done in bringing in Cornelius Williams with his ties in the state, with some of, obviously, he's been at, was it North Alabama, Jacksonville State, Troy, South Alabama. I think he spent some time in high school as well. So he is going to be the linchpin for recruiting and building that foundation here again in the state. What I think is going to give Auburn some good injection into them going forward is utilizing those relationships that Coach Harsin has out west in the Midwest and bringing those in to supplement where they've fallen behind, and potentially inject new life back into the program until we can kind of come back to a point where we're competing again on a regular basis with Alabama, and especially Georgia, who's poaching a lot of people from Alabama as well. Let me back up here. I think I'm behind. And Alabama has a losing record against Louisiana Tech. Yeah, you see why Alabama doesn't go play a lot of the little teams all the time that they have bad records against, or the in-state programs. Can't mar the record. Can't do it. They got burned by Louisiana Monroe. Oh, you see a day where Troy will ever play Auburn or UA in football? Alabama, no. Auburn, yes. I would love it. I'd love nothing more than to see. This is not even football related, but basketball related. I would love to see an in-state tournament, including Alabama. They'll never do it. Where we have all the teams, not all of them, but you can have Alabama, Auburn, Troy, South Alabama, who's pretty good these days, UAB, who's had some decent success. Throw Jacksonville State in there. You can even throw some of the smaller teams like North Alabama stuff in there and have not a tournament, but an invitational where you play maybe three or four games, maybe 3 games, 2 games, something like, where you have Auburn play someone like Jacksonville State, but then play Alabama or play UAB, and you could have the big 4 teams be Troy, UAB, Alabama, and Auburn simply from their size, and then have teams like Jacksonville State and South Alabama, some other teams like that, be the lower tier teams in that type of setup there. Darius thinks it's going to be a new rivalry in the making. I hope not. Like I said, don't want to see them ever again. Don't want to see it. Just I'm ready. Look, that's the thing about Auburn. We have bad luck, and we always run into these situations where it's going to work out. Like, think about this. And when I say this, I'm not making light of a certain situation I'll touch on in just a second. But remember when Auburn played Purdue, and it was I forget the kid's name, but he was, unfortunately, he has passed away of cancer, so I'm not making light of that anyway. But how awful is that not only do you go, if you lose to this team in Purdue, you look bad, but if you beat the team, you just beat the team's kid who's dying of cancer. How awful is that? And we didn't beat them, we murdered them. Like, just put them into the ground. Auburn doesn't win in those situations in any certain circumstance. And that was probably one of Gus's best offensive games he's put out at Auburn. Bass says Gus will be in Disney and chill in that new lazy river. Man, I would, if I see Gus Malzahn down there, it's in Disney. For just a quick aside, I'm a huge Disney World fan. My wife and I go a lot, so that'd be a great day to see that happen down there. Quick question: is Auburn baseball in the top 25? I believe they are number 6 in the SEC overall. Yes, and I think they're actually 6th in the SEC West. I can't remember exactly. I think they're 23. Does that seem like the right number, guys? Jared, you're asking, but anybody else know? I think they're in the top 25. Excited for that to start this week. let's see. In his opinion, he says the West is cool, but you don't want to burn your bridges in the South. There's way too much talent. Agreed. So that's why I'm not saying abandon it altogether, but you can't ignore that we're not so far behind at this point, especially with changing over coaches and things like that, and with Alabama's continued success and Georgia having some success, but not the real success. And by the way, I think we've got a Dogs fan in here, so I'm happy that they heard that. It's always funny when we've got opposing fans that have nothing to do with the conversation come in and throw out their chants or whatever you want to call them. Speaking of which, quick aside here, and I know many of you Auburn fans have had this type of situation happen, so I want to talk about it real quick. I usually go on a 30 to 45 minute walk every day just because health wise, but also it's a good clear your mind type of thing. You should try it. I didn't believe it until I started doing it. I've been doing it almost every day for a year now. Walking down, have my headphones in, and I've got, obviously an Auburn hoodie on, Auburn toboggan because it was cold out. I'm on one side of the street. This husband or wife come up, and it's just in a neighborhood, but they obviously see my gear, and the lady, knowing that I can see that I'm focused ahead, I've got my headphones, she makes it a point to kind of get my attention, to get my headphones, and says, RT. And I just looked at it, and I'm like, well, that's a shame. And I'm like, and I didn't want to be rude, but I'm just kind of like, we have so much rent space in your head that you have to get my attention just so you can say that to me. I wasn't going to acknowledge you guys, just stay on your side over there. It's quite a shame that we have so much rent taken up in your headspace there. All right, we do have confirmation that he's going to Oklahoma. It's a good program for him to go to, much better situation than Tennessee. Sad to not have him coming back. So just as a quick reminder, if you see recruits, if you see players posting things that are having questions about their things, they know what you're talking about, and they try to play it up sometimes. So just remember that. By the way, if you're enjoying the content today, please do make sure you smash that like button. It does help the video out. If you're enjoying, if you're not, I understand as well. But just a quick reminder there. All right. Let's see. Ramon says another problem with Gus was his lack of developing quarterbacks. Bo never improved at all. I don't feel like personally get into that debate today because I disagree with the notion that he never. Well, he didn't say that. He said lack. Lack we can probably talk about. Has it been the best time for Auburn quarterbacks under Gus Malzahn? No. Has it been the worst? No, either. To say Bo never improved, I disagree with that. I think there's probably areas he improved that you would see better if he had a better offensive line. Oh boy, if Kevin Steele goes to UCF as the DC, this will end up in the coup rumors. I would like to see T. Will as Gus's DC. I could see Cody as the OC. Oh man. So UCF fans, if you want to adopt at least a segment of the Auburn fan base, you have Coach Malzahn as your head coach. And then if you bring in T. Will, that'll get a lot of Auburn fans over there, even ones that didn't like Gus. And then Cody as your OC, that's an Auburn fan's dream outside of them if we had them here. Make a rivalry with Southern Union. Don't think that's going to happen, Darius. But yeah. Let's see here. I'm kind of trying to catch up here. We could have scored 100 on Purdue if we wanted to, but that's Gus's character. He doesn't like to do that to the teams, and he called off the dogs, so to speak. Thomas is pointing out there's 20 days of spring practice. Yes, there is. A day is usually mid-April. We don't have a specific date for that yet, but I'm sure that information will be coming out very soon. I'm excited for A-Day weekend because I think I'm hoping that I can try to go. Don't know what the lockdown situation, not lockdown, but the COVID-19 restrictions are going to be, but I'd like to be on campus and doing some things. We didn't get to do that at all this year with the network stuff, so I'd like to do that for A-Day. Stan, got my master's degree accounting at UCF, so I'm thrilled. War Eagle. I guess you at least got a little bit of a tie there. The weirdest encounter I've ever had was when I lived in Chicago, was walking down Michigan Avenue wearing Auburn hat, and some Bama fan walked up to me, blew cigarette smoke in my face. Yeah, that's par for the course with Alabama fans. People are kind of having their mind blown about that. But yeah, so there's kind of the takes on that. So how about this? I know we asked the question at the beginning: was this a good decision for Coach Malzahn to coach right after, to become a coach right away? Should he have taken a year off? And most of you answered yes. We had a couple people that are kind of my opinion that I think he should have taken a year off. Do you think this is? How about this? Do you think this is Coach Malzahn's final stop? As in, he's not old, but he's not young either. Do you think Coach Malzahn will stay here and have success? What do you think? Or do you think he wants to come back into the Power 5 ranks? What do you all think about that? I really want Opelika to make a real university. Southern Union doesn't count. I don't think that you're going to see that happen. Opelika thrives off of Auburn University and what they bring into their vicinity, shopping, economy-wise. You're not going to see something compete with that. Having a, for lack of a feeder school like Southern Union, I'm not trying to be mean to Southern Union, is actually working well for both sides of that community. Gus is too driven not to coach. It's a fair point. I just thought personally that it would be in his best benefit to sit out a year, do something else, maybe just rest, and find a Power 5 situation where he could come in with some lower expectations and build them up. I was thinking maybe the Big 12. He has some ties out that way. Maybe like trying to think here of a good situation for him. Well, actually, most of them are doing pretty good. So maybe Iowa State. Auburn, Iowa State connections continue then at that point. I think Gus will stay at UCF for a long time. I want to think so. And I think Gus sees the longevity that could happen there. However, I don't know necessarily that he doesn't want to come back into the Power 5. He'll be gone in 4 to 5 years if he has success, which he probably should. So that's probably a good point there. Press conference at 2. So if you guys want to watch that, you can. I'm not going to be because I know all I need to know about Gus Malzahn. But there you go. If you want to watch him and see him one last time. But I think the good thing about this topic, and most of you may be asking, like, why are we even talking about these? Not the head coach. I mean, there's still the Auburn connection, and this kind of like puts it to bed in a sense, Not that there was any chance of him coming back. And at this point, I really wouldn't wish that on him or Auburn. With the bridges that have been burned. But I do think that this kind of closes the chapter on that. The conversation's over. Auburn has clearly moved on. He has now moved on. He's not sitting in the wind. And then they can kind of go off into the sunset in their own separate ways. Timothy says 3 to 5 years tops at UCF. I think that's a fair estimation. I feel like he wants this to be his last. No. I want to feel like this is his. He feels like this is his last stop, but something tells me it's not. Michael thinks he'll have another big school calling him in 3 to 5 years to be OC. I don't know that he wants to be an OC again. I think he wants to prove himself as a head coach. 6 to 7 years at UCF, then 1 stop before he retires to a TV job and back to high school coaching because he loves the game. I don't see Gus as a TV personality. I don't think he necessarily, and this is not a dig at him, but I think it's just being honest, I don't think he has the personality for it. Gene Chizik's very charismatic, and if you noticed with his, and that, I think personally, I thought about today having this included in the conversation, and what we might do on another live stream is talk about former Auburn head coaches' careers after Auburn. Because I kind of went back and looked at it, and I find it kind of interesting who's had success, who went on to do other things. Gene Chizik's one of those that I think could have been still successful, but I think he found a happy medium in being in TV and still getting to be involved in football. So maybe we'll do that on another show. He will leave when he gives us another national championship. Another or your only one? Look, we're not going to let y'all get away with that over here. Yeah, we're honored that you would say that you'd beat us and that gets you a national championship, but we're not going to let UCF slide over here with that kind of mess. When he gets you your first one, maybe yes. Let's see. Thoughts on the new defensive philosophy and regarding Derek Mason and our guys. I am not a fan of the 3-4 defense personally. And I said this on a previous live stream where I have no real reason whatsoever to dislike it. I just don't. And I think, and maybe this is the only reason it's stupid. I acknowledge that, but this is just me being honest. Playing NCAA football as long as I have and as much as I have, I hate running that in the game. I prefer the 3-4 or a hybrid of it to some extent. So that's really my only reason. But, Derek Mason is a great defensive mind. I like his connections as a West Coast. I like his mentality. I like what he brings to the table. So far, I think he's probably the slam dunk. Well, not slam dunk. He's the best hire that Coach Harsin has made thus far. Who likes Gus? Who likes Gus? Who likes UCF? So anyway, so we've talked about whether this was a right decision for him. We've talked about what's his longevity there. I want a quick yes or no here. Do you want to see Auburn versus UCF, Harsin versus Malzahn? Yes or no? Do you want to see that? And maybe why as well? Answer that now. We'll answer that, maybe get some response on that, and then we'll say goodbye to the social media folks, and then we'll kind of finish up our show here on YouTube. That's the thing, social media folks, we usually stay a little bit longer for the YouTube people. So if you're not over here, you should be. All right. Stan wants to see the matchup. No, Neil does not want to see it. So it seems like we're kind of going to be, I feel like we're going to be evenly split down on this. NCAA football games, 3-4 defense was garbage. I fully agree with you there. So that's probably why I hate it so much, because it was garbage. But yeah, so it seems like that's going to be the main opinion there, is that we don't want to see that matchup happen in the future, because I think there's a segment of the Auburn fan that would love to beat Gus, and I would. If that happens, I want Auburn to beat Gus. 100%, because I'm for Auburn. I'm not for Gus. Ultimately, I'm for Auburn. But it'll hurt my heart a little bit to do that to a guy that I really love and wish had been our head coach longer. I also don't want us to lose to UCF again. And if Gus is the guy that does it, ooh, that stings just a little bit. Just a little bit. So anyway. All right. I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to social media folks, Twitter folks. Thanks for being here. As always, I recommend you come over to YouTube. Consider being here for the better experience, but we'll always do stuff like this for you all when you want to join in. So bye to Twitter, folks. Everybody wave bye to Twitter. All right, so here's what we normally do at this part. I'm not necessarily running off right now, but we've kind of, I think, reached the point in this conversation where we've said most of what we want to, but I want last minute comments, questions from you all. It doesn't even have to be about this topic. Doesn't even have to be Auburn related, but you get those in now. And let me go through a couple of things here at the end of the show that we always do for you all, just so that you can kind of have some information. And I know most of you know this already. These are ways that you can help support the content we do here. These links are in the description for this video, but they're also at the top of the stream. And if I remember to, I'll put them at the very end as well. But you can go listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, anywhere really. If you're an Apple Podcast subscriber, we do ask that you help us out by giving us a review. Even if it's a 1-star review, we can take constructive criticism if that's what you think we deserve. But it does help push the show out to other Auburn fans on Apple, because it tells Apple that this is worth for people listening to. PayPal donations, we do have a paypal.me/E2C network. And then we do have the Booster Club, which a lot of you are joining and helping us incur the cost that we do here to create this podcast network at patreon.com/E2C network. And there's a TeePublic store where you can get our logo and some Auburn gear as well. A lot of you are already doing it. Smash the like button if you've enjoyed this content today. I really appreciate it. We've also, by request, started putting a couple of the episodes up here on YouTube. So it's a video that's basically blank. I did some animation this time to help it out. But it's got the audio behind it. So you can listen to the podcast, a few of them on YouTube, the recent ones. I'm not going to guarantee we keep doing that. I had some people ask. I need to kind of see people actually enjoy that, and I'm not seeing that thus far. So if you want that option, make sure you let me know that you're liking that and that you're using it, because it is a little bit of extra time to do that. But I'm willing to try it because we got some requests to have that out there. All right. Let me back up here. Jared wants to see them again for the Natty. I don't even want to see them for that. I think most of us love something about Gus. I think he's still a divisive figure for whatever reason, which is still interesting to me. So I don't think you're ever going to have a completely united fan base on that. Maybe we start recruiting in Virginia. Maybe. I don't know if we'd see a lot of success up there, though. We kind of did that during Gene Chizik's era. We were going after Stephon Diggs, who we thought was coming to Auburn. He chose... Who did he choose? Maryland. He was in the area, at least, over us. Yes, game with UCF would be a good early season game. Oh, boy, I can't take that type of heartache in the early part of the season. Wish Gus well. Time to see Coach Harsin can do his head. See, as head coach, I agree. So, I didn't do this topic today just saying, we got to just love on Gus. But I thought it was a great closing chapter here for this saga. He has moved on. Auburn has moved on. And we wish both of them success. We just wish Auburn and Coach Harsin more success. Head over to the Carolinas before Coastal becomes a powerhouse. I don't think they're going to become a powerhouse anytime soon. Will Harsin be able to get us to our usual top 12 recruiting classes in the future? So my opinion, Will, has been this, is that Coach Harsin, you got to go ahead and you need to give a lot of people a pass for this year in recruiting, but definitely Coach Harsin. He walked into a tough situation. I think the expectation next year should be a top 20 class. I think potentially he could get close to the top 10. I think he'll get into the top 10 at some point recruiting wise, but it depends on how everybody else is doing. I mean, did you see who Alabama pulled in? Like 8 5-stars this year. So that's going to be tough to do, to get into the top 10 and stay there. I think he'll see some of that, and there'll be a lot of hype right then. It's like everybody's going to be like, I told you so. He was a better recruiter than Gus. And then the reality is going to start setting in, and it's like a top 15, top 12 class. So yes, my answer to that would be do you think he'll get us there? I think he can. I think it's a better chance than not of happening. But we're working from a low point right now. David wouldn't mind seeing the matchup. Y'all are just gluttons for punishment. Which Auburn head coach leaving fired was the toughest to swallow? This one's pretty tough, to be honest with you, for me personally. Coach Tuberville, too, was a tough one for me. By and large, in my opinion, from what I was seeing, I was on campus when that happened. That was one that was solely a booster. Even the first time, definitely, but the second time they finally got rid of him was a booster type of situation as well. I think by and large, the fan base wanted to give him a pass for that year and see what he could do going forward. Jared, thank you so much for being here, my friend. We always appreciate seeing you here. Thank you. Give Harsin some Zaxby's and let him know how the South does stuff. So that's one thing that I think is going to be important for Coach Harsin is to coach. Athletic director Alan Green did this very well, coming in and didn't try to change Auburn, at least right away. I think he tried to integrate into what our culture is like, what being a member of the Auburn family is like, and I really appreciate that about him. It seems like, at least on the surface, that's what Coach Harsin is doing, and I hope he continues to do that. Yeah, so I think we've probably wrapped all that up here today. So we wish Gus all the best. I appreciate you all so much for being here today on this live stream. Smash that like button on the way out if you enjoyed this stream. I will be busy for the next couple of days and likely maybe even into the weekend. So I just go ahead and warn you that if you're wondering where I am, it is going to be potentially a crazy week ahead for me. If something big happens, we might go live in the evening times, but just be patient. I promise we'll be back. I'm probably going to be putting some more of the podcast episodes here so y'all can at least enjoy that. Maybe some shorter videos that I've done in the past before. I'll try to maybe do some of those, but I really appreciate you guys being here, being a part of our little family within the Auburn family, and I hope you'll check out some of those links in the description and up and above as well to help support us. So thank you all so very much. War Eagle, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.